Locho sampo pagyo tashi pa tuche tempe chile yarvoda eke drolo sampe separashe pande lame shabla solvade Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasaneka Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsamanya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasaneka Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsamanya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasaneka Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Uta Vardhani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Oma Guru Vajradhara Sumati Muni Shasane Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Dagi Jetsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Sikso So Geve Shesan Dala Tendo So Oyon Sungi Nawa Tsedo Seji Ningne Sawa Deve Tse Dejen Kolo Visu Lekshune Yila Sambe Deden Maluk Geme Dungi Drupra Chingi Lo Tsonyi Sodan Dikdun Shape Tse Dungi Namge Yinsu Lekshun Lapchen Tsonyi Yonsu Tsopadan Cherani Dun Chamra Chingi Lo Janchu Pargi Ninsen Tukun Niu Peme Sudru Lekshune Janchu Drube Geken Kunshishi Dungen De La Drupra Chingir Dagi Lona Chola Chokpadan Chemin Samjur Nimba Shiwa Chedan Timbe Tede Malupa Peme Mingi Drupra Chingilo Dorna Tingnet Techi Pardone Ka Thamche Tu Rese Kyamne Lama Kele Tukche Chingi Dala Sikso So Gongya Brewe Nyamda Dachala Kodan Sungi Nawa Drame Tu Nyamsu Nyongwe Kesan Tobrasho Kewa Kuntu Yanda Lama Drame Chiki Pela Longche Chin Sadan Lamge Yente Rasu Dorje Change Kopa Nyurto Sho Pakyuke Kudan Dagilu Pakyuke Sundan Dagima Pakyuke Tukdan Dagi Yermen Chikto Chingi Olo Makyuke Kudan Makyuke Sundan Dagima Makyuke Tukdan Dagi Yermen Chikto Chingi Olo Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Soha Sashipeki Chushimeto Kamare Ravalim Shik Nidegem Padi Sange Shimtu Mikte Ulwarki Drogunam Dashila Cheparasho Idam Guru Rana Mindrala Kam Niryataya Sangye chedan tsogi chonam jamchu pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe son drola pinchira sangye drubrasho sangye chedan tsogi chonam la jamchu pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam drola pinchira sangye druparasho sangye chedan tsogi chonam la jancho pardo dani kyapsu dagi jinso gibe sonam rola pinchira sangye druparasho. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment through the practice of generosity and the other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Namo alhaye kedaluda najinge ruoda dami kenamdan ruokange tanuchisam tamje kedo dagi chete. Good morning.
Good morning.
One of the very special qualities that we as humans have is the quality of being able to transmit and share knowledge and experience from one generation to the other. Because if we needed to start from scratch every time anyone needs to learn something, we will still be there learning how to make fire. Because the alternative of learning from other people is of going through the process of trial and error. But we have this wonderful quality, not only us, any other forms of life, many other animals do have also, in a different way, but they also learn from one generation to the other. You know? I remember clearly the first time I took my dog to one place where there was a sort of beach, and the dog was very small, had never been in contact with many other dogs, no? Went like 2 months with the mother, then came at home. And then one day we were in this place, like sort of the beach near the river. It was a bit warm and already start excavating to find a more fresh place under the earth, because under is fresher. No? Then I was looking, I said, well, whoever taught this, you know? And many, many other examples. And then what the people, the dog understanding people, they said, this is what they call ancestral memory. So there is a memory that goes there from many generations behind, by the way how things were done and the experiences that happened, and then this is passed down. Okay, we also have this type of intuitions and so on. But we have a much more conceptual way of working and thinking. And there is this incredible capacity that we have of passing down knowledge and experience from one generation to the other. And within that, there is one point, because today I want to go directly to the point, because we don't have that much time to go through this beautiful text of Lama Tsongkhapa. And one good thing of not having so much time is we go directly to the point. Okay. So what happens is that when transmitting knowledge and experience from one to the other, it's not just a matter of connecting to the actual technical aspects of the knowledge itself. There is a very important part of connecting to the human part, or to connecting to the one that is transmitting. There is a big difference when we receive something from someone to whom we have a special connection and from someone with whom we have no connection at all. There is a difference when we learn something just opening a book or watching a video online and actually receiving from someone that not only has the knowledge but also has the experience and with whom we have a feeling of trust and love. This makes a big difference when receiving it. And in Buddhist tradition it is said that it is fundamentally important that when we receive any knowledge and transmission, it must come from an uninterrupted lineage. And uninterrupted means the one that is transmitting to me has received this from someone that had the knowledge and the experience, and then the one that is transmitting to me has not only the knowledge but also the experience. And like this it goes from one generation to the other until it reaches the first one that gave that teachings. Okay. So these days we will see this beautiful text, which is the foundation of all good qualities of Lama Tsongkhapa, of which are teachings that Lama Tsongkhapa himself received from his gurus, which makes reference to Atisha's teachings, that makes reference to Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings actually, but of which we received through an uninterrupted lineage. Okay? And connecting to this transmission, it's something that helps us a lot to elaborate and to develop inside our mind. It's not just a matter of going and reading the text and developing a technical understanding about it, a conceptual understanding. There is something more deep that goes with it. It's quite difficult to put it into words, but there is something which is very much about the presence, very much about the connection, about the trust, about the feeling of love that we create, and all of that. And this is something very powerful. And one of the very interesting things also is that when we develop something like this with someone, it's like if we learn how to tune the channel of our radio to that station. And then, we are able really to receive much more. But the interesting thing is not only that, this connection, it works when that person is alive and even after that person leaves the body. It's a connection that remains there. If we are able to tune correctly, we can connect to people that have already passed away through their books, through their teachings, but if we really connect with the heart, there is a particular way of connection that it works also. And what we will do here is called the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa. And within the practice of the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa, also known as Gandela Gyema, there is the part which is called the foundation of all good qualities. In Tibetan, Yönten Shigurma, which is the meditation on requesting the blessings on the gradual path to enlightenment. Okay. And first of all, let's have an overview of the practice. Then we will go into some more details. But this practice, it came originally after Lama Tsongkhapa passed away. And during the time of Lama Tsongkhapa, his disciples would have a direct connection with Lama Tsongkhapa. Now, Lama Tsongkhapa has been this master that was like so special in a way that in the whole of Tibet there was a very clear period before Lama Tsongkhapa and after Lama Tsongkhapa. Not only through the clarity of his teachings. There is even a saying in Tibetan which goes by, if you don't know something, ask Bhutan. If you are not sure about something, ask Lama Tsongkhapa. In which Bhutan Tamche Khenpa was a master that came before Lama Tsongkhapa, maybe 2 generations before, something like that. And he had like such a vast knowledge that he wrote more than 100 volumes in his lifetime. Even the way to write books, I think he had most efficient way of writing books. That even nowadays you could not reach it even with the artificial intelligence, I think. What he did was that he built a stupa, and then he put on each corner of the stupa, he put one secretary, someone to write. And as he would go around the stupa,
when he would reach in front of each one, he will tell a phrase of the book that he was writing on 4 different subjects, 4 different books. So as he would go around, between one corner and the other, he had the time to think what would be, I don't know how his mind was working, if it was at the same time thinking about the 4 books, so I don't know how it was working. But as a matter of fact, whenever he would go in front of each one, he will tell them a phrase and they will write it down, and then he'll go the next one, the next phrase. So he will write 4 books at the same time. So that's why he wrote on so many subjects that in Tibet it said, if you don't know about a subject, you ask Buddha. Buddha Tamche Kempa, Buddha the all-knowing one. But if you are not sure about something, you want a position about something that is crystal clear, that there is no any space for doubt, that it's so clearly placed, then you ask Lama Tsongkhapa. Lama Tsongkhapa didn't write 100 volumes, Lama Tsongkhapa wrote 18 volumes. But in the books of Lama Tsongkhapa, in his way of teachings, there was such clarity. For me, sometimes it was reading his book, sometimes he's so clear that it becomes even annoying at some point. Because what happens is that after some time you already trust Lama Tsongkhapa, at least me, I have full trust. So he goes on a book and then he goes like, okay, half page explaining the concept. Then for that half page explaining the concept, you have maybe 10, 15 pages of explaining why it is like that and giving all the references to Buddha's sutras, where it's swing is like this, all the other previous masters, where they were giving references, where they say that it is like this. Then after that he goes into bringing up all the doubts. People that are living in his times and before him that had different opinions about the same subject. So he brings up all the different opinions about the same subject, and then he debates on why they are wrong, explaining why and how and so on. Then once this is finished, then he brings hypothetical questions and doubts that may arrive, bringing to a wrong understanding about that. And then he goes there explaining why this answer is not like right and why it's like this and like that. He go into all these levels of explaining, and so that's, I mean, annoying sometimes that I just read the first half and for me it's enough, instead of going through all this reasoning, which actually is wonderful. So at no point Lama Tsongkhapa in his book say something and say, because I said it is like this, full stop. No. He gives the references to the previous masters, then he gives the logical reasoning, then he answers to the different views of people that are at his times around him having different positions. So that's why Lama Tsongkhapa had this extremely clear way of explaining anything. This was one of the special qualities. But also Lama Tsongkhapa was very special since his birth. He started his formal spiritual, upbringing, like teachings, when he was about 1.5 years old. At that time, one of the great masters of his time, of the town where he was, he saw this special child and he went to his parents and say, can you give me your son for Dharma education? Because your son is special, and they accepted in a way. So he started receiving formal education of Dharma when he was very small. And then he started giving his first teachings when he was 3 years old. And in the beginning, first time I read that, I said, come on. This is just some Tibetan exaggeration. Saying that 3 years old, it is like that, no? Then the time that I somehow convinced me this, I was reading a book on mathematics. It's called The Book on the Prime Numbers. It's a nice book which explaining the prime numbers, and it explains through the life story of many mathematicians that try to solve all the mysteries behind the prime numbers. And there was a French mathematician, now I don't remember his name anymore, but as a matter of fact, when he was 3 years old, he was correcting the accounting of his father's shop. So he had this such strong mathematician mind that when he was already 3, he was doing the accounting of his father's shop and correcting the accounting of his father's shop. Then when I read that, I said, okay, then why can't Lama Tsongkhapa been giving teachings, no? which was like giving advices to people. And he was so respected since a small kid, people would invite him to their houses. And he had, for example, it's said that since he was at that age, he had a sort of aversion for mundane things like attachment to power and to money and recognition. He had a very clear that these were things that were of no benefit, like worldly dharmas, not at all. So when Lama Tsongkhapa was 12, he was already doing self-initiation of Heruka, which is something that nowadays, you see from all the great geshes and so on, and like lamas older, not so many are able to do truly. And one of the most interesting things also is that Lama Tsongkhapa had more than 100 gurus, but most of his gurus ended up becoming his disciples. Because he had such a high level of knowledge and practice and realizations that sooner or later they came towards him. So there was this strong aspect of Lama Tsongkhapa of wanting to have clarity and bringing clarity to the teachings and not following something simply because it was tradition to do like this. And this, just making one example of what I mean, is like not long ago, few years ago, one of my teachers in Tibet, already passed away, Kachelo Sampin Rinpoche, the abbot of Tashilhunpo, he told me that he was on a trip together with other abbots of other monasteries of different traditions. So one day he was in a train, and it was a long trip, and he was together with the abbot of a Jonang monastery. Jonang is a different tradition in Tibet. You have the Gelupa, the Kargyo, the Sakya, the Nyingma. Then there is the Jonang tradition. It's a lesser tradition. And the Jonang master had a particular view regarding the correct view of reality that didn't fit exactly with the explanation of Lama Tsongkhapa. So he took the time that they were in the train and he said, okay, let's debate about it. You have the Jonampa teachings, which I have read. I know Lama Tsongkhapa. Let's debate about it. We are both knowledgeable persons about the subject. So they start debating and debating and debating about it. And my teacher said that he was using all references to masters that came before Lama Tsongkhapa and before the Jo Taranata, which was the founder of the German tradition, such as Nagarjuna and other masters, and using logics. And at one point, the abbot of the other monastery told him, Gela, anyhow, we can stay here days and days debating, but by the end of the day, you are Gelupa, I am Jonampa. Which means I follow what my master said, you follow what your master said. And my teacher was saying, no. We are here to look for the truth, to understand what is coherent, we need to understand things much beyond what I am this tradition or that tradition. And he found no space whatsoever for that. So one of the feelings I have is that like Lama Tsongkhapa, he founded his own tradition by the end of his life. In the very, very end of his life. Before that, he was trying to debate with people and to make clarity in things that were not clear. And at one point, when he saw that, this is my understanding, there was no real space for change. Then he said, okay, those that like to follow this view, come on, let's go together. No? That's when he founded his monastery. And one nice thing is that normally we call the Gelupa tradition, following Lama Tsongkhapa, which is called the tradition of virtue. Gelukpa, the ones that follow the tradition of virtue. Gewa means virtue. But the original name was Galukpa, which is the tradition of Ganden, which is the name of his monastery. But which literally means the tradition of joy. So it's also important to connect with that aspect. So, anyhow, Lama Tsongkhapa had many beautiful qualities, and it's important for those that like to go to read his biography. But it was such a master of such special qualities and such an incredible example, then after he passed away, all the disciples and the disciples of his disciples for centuries up to now found ways how to connect with Lama Tsongkhapa. In order to be able to realize his teachings and to follow the path that he showed, not only from a conceptual point, but also to connect from heart to heart. Okay? And here there is one specific concept that is very strongly in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, in the Mahayana, Vajrayana Buddhist tradition, which is what we call Samaya Sattva and Jnana Sattva, which is called the wisdom, the commitment being and the wisdom being. Tamsik Sempa and Yeshe Sempa in Tibetan. So let's make one example. Let me see something here. Okay, there on my left side. You see there is a picture of Lama Ganchen Rinpoche, right? As we look to that picture, many of you have met Rinpoche. Okay, some of you may have not met him. But those that have met Rinpoche have your own memories, and you can connect to his person. Those that have not met him have your own mental image based on what you were told and what you read and so on. But when we look at the picture, we see only like colors and forms and shapes, or basically we connect to something that goes beyond matter. When you see the picture of your grandma, it's just a drawing, or actually it connects to someone. It connects to a person. So when we see that, it is like that the picture is like a bridge, like a portal. The picture opens us the possibility for our mind to connect with the person. So in the moment that we see the picture of Lama Ganchen Rinpoche, that picture works like a sort of bridge, like a sort of portal that allows us directly to connect with Lama Ganchen Rinpoche as a person. Okay? The same thing is when we look at the picture of, I don't know, Michael Jackson, or our own father and mother and child and daughter, or whoever, you know, any picture has this function. So the actual drawing, the actual image is called the Samaya Sattva. It is the actual commitment being. In the word Samaya, which normally is translated as commitment, actually, when we go to look for the translation of Samaya, one of the interesting way of translating Samaya is the point of union, like a bridge. Okay, it goes beyond the word commitment. There is no real translation in English, but Samaya means also like the point that connects two things. So the Samaya Sattva, which is the so-called commitment being, or the being which is the point of connection, it's something through which we connect to the wisdom being. Okay? When you look at me right now, and I look at you, okay, and I ask you, you are, what I see with my eyes is you, or is your body? What do you see with your eyes? Can you see my whole self, or you can see my body? Body. But based on my expressions and based on many things regarding me, through my body of what you see, you can somehow connect to my being. Right? As I can connect to yours. So the body of a person is also the Samaya Sattva, the commitment being, through which we can connect to the person. The person goes beyond the body. Okay? Which we call the subtle body, and or we can call the very subtle body and mind. The mind of the person. There are many levels, like the mental continuum. You know? So that's why, for example, we request Lama Ganchen Rinpoche, you left that body, so please come back into another body so that we can easily connect to you. What we want to connect to is that which goes beyond the body. But the body is the bridge that helps us to connect to it. Okay? So the body is the Samaya Sattva, the bridge, the point of connection. And the wisdom being is the actual person, the actual being. Okay? So whenever we make a sadhana, whenever we have a practice, we always need, basically like in the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa, whom do we need to connect with? With Lama Tsongkhapa. So how do I connect with Lama Tsongkhapa? I need a bridge. I need something that connects me with Lama Tsongkhapa. Okay? And one interesting thing is also, before we go through the actual sadhana, very briefly, our friend Rupert Sheldrake, he made this scientist, this, I will not say crazy English scientist, but particular British scientist, very nice. I admire very much his work and his courage. But in one of his scientific research, he did research on telepathy. And what he explained when we met him together with Lama Ganchen Rinpoche here in Holland, in one of the congress organized by Rohir. And at that time, he said something which was like, my life as a scientist is quite difficult because when I talk about my research to common people, they say it's obvious. When I talk to scientists, they say I'm crazy. But one of his research was what happens when you think about someone and call the person. I don't know, did it ever happen to you that you think about someone and suddenly the phone rings? Or you receive a message nowadays? Can this happen? Okay. So the way of explaining this is basically because before writing you, I think about you. Because before calling you, I think about you. And actually our mind has the power of connection. Okay. Animals have telepathy. We are animals actually. Okay. I don't know, there are so many ways to see that animals. Yesterday when we were in the car, there was this moment of all the birds flying together, All the studies that were done about how these birds fly together, there is no other way of technically, scientifically explaining how they're able to move in such way together other than telepathy. They become a sort of one-minded, because they do such movements so fast that there is no time to look and go together. They need to do it simultaneously, basically. So it's like becoming like one mind together. There are many, many examples of many other forms of life and insects that connect on a sort of telepathy level and many ways. And in our own daily life, there are many examples of that. But the point that I want to reach for that is that when I think about someone, something connects. Not because I'm special. We are all like this. When any one of us think about someone, is there something happening or not? Yeah. Yes. So, our mind has a very powerful thing, and there are many different levels of connection with that. So, what is explained in Buddhist teachings is that the blessings of the Buddhas, like Buddha's loves and compassion and wisdom and so on, it's like always on for everyone. It's like a powerful radio station with the signals going everywhere. Like, I don't know here in Holland, but in Italy there is one radio station that you can listen in any corner of Italy. It doesn't matter where you go. You can be in a bunker 150 meters under the ground, that radio station will work, which is Radio Maria. It's a Christian radio. Like in Rome, there are some cities where you can even listen to it in the doorbell. Because the signal is so strong, you can even in the doorbell they will come, So the point is that, like the Buddha's blessings is like Radio Maria somehow, Like the signal is always there. But then depends on us being able to tune to it. Okay? So it's like if you are always present, but if I am not open to you, I cannot interact. It's an interesting thing. For example, if I am walking in the road and there is someone angry nearby, but I have no connection to that person at all, how much do I get affected by the anger of that person? 0 to 10? 2? 3? Maybe. But what happens if that person is someone that I am very connected with? Someone that I have a particular attraction and feeling and connection and so on. So suddenly I see there my friend, my father, my mother, my husband, my wife, whoever, actually being on the road, very angry and so on. How much am I affected by it? 0 to 10? 10. Okay. There is a very important part, which is when we are open to someone, when we connect to someone, then we exchange. Okay? And if you are angry and I am in the same room with you, and I allow myself to be influenced by your anger, I am receiving your blessings. Okay? This is like a sarcastic way of talking about blessings. Okay? Tibetans have this way of saying. But did you ever receive this type of blessings from anyone?
Yes.
No? In other words, like, did it ever happen that you are in the same room with someone and then this person is angry and you feel a negative influence from that person's behavior and it moves something inside of you in not a good way? Experience, no? Okay, this is the blessing in the wrong way, in the opposite way. Because the blessing, it's an interaction that it helps us to develop a virtuous aspect. It helps us to feel more peace. It helps us to connect with some aspects of Dharma. For example, when I was going to Tibet to study, I had the most strong experience, and I am quite skeptical. I was living just in front of the Shilumpa monastery, like 50 meters from the monastery door. Because no one is allowed to stay inside the monastery unless you are formally part of that monastery. There are very strict rules there. So they have the guest house of the monastery, like 50 meters from it. From my room I could see the whole monastery, very beautiful and so on. But there was a very interesting thing that whenever I would enter the walls of the monastery, it was like I could feel it like physically somehow. There was this wish to sit and meditate and practice Dharma and study Dharma, and there was like this urge and this joy in practicing Dharma and studying Dharma that happened as long as I entered. It was like no need to put much effort. When I got out of the walls, I need to put 5 times the effort to do the same thing. So it is something happening inside that context. And when you are open to it, you allow yourself to feel it, and somehow it interacts with you. This is a blessing that you receive from the place and from the community. Okay? So blessings are very important. We can receive blessings through images, through sounds, through smells, through taste, through memories, through physical presence, through mental connection. There's so many ways in which we can receive blessings. Okay, both in a positive and a negative way, but normally the word blessings refers to the positive. But for us to understand what is a blessing, when we think in the negative, then we can understand better what is a blessing. Okay? There is, for example, the difference of a blessing of being in nature. It has a very particular aspect. Like in Albagnano, I have the experience so many times. Just go to walk in the forest, you feel the benefit in your mind. These are the blessings of the forest. It interacts with you in a way that changes you positively. There are some places that when you go, you feel something. Like for many years, whenever I was going to Milan, I had the experience of entering the city, and there was a specific point of the city where I would pass by car, and I had this feeling of like the inner speed going higher. So there is, let's say, the blessings I receive from the city. Okay, so this means that we interact with each other, and as we interact with each other, we receive so many influences. Okay, but one important key is that for me to be allowed to be able to be influenced by you, I must be open to you. I must connect myself with you. The stronger is my connection with you, the more I am able to be influenced by you, both in a positive and negative way. Because if I am not connected with you, I'm completely like a wall between you and me. Even if you have the most negative behavior, I'm not influenced much by it. Okay? Do we have these experiences in our life? Can we understand this concept? No? Okay. So, if there is someone so special and I want to be positively influenced by that person, what I need to do? I need to connect. I need to open myself. And how we connect? With the feeling of gratitude, of faith, of trust, of love. Okay? So, because Lama Tsongkhapa has been such an incredible master, and he was of benefit for so many people in his time, since he passed away, all his disciples continue to connect to him up to now. And we continue to do the same. And we add something up because we connect to him. Together we connect to all the masters that came after him, up to our own gurus nowadays. And the point is that by opening our mind, then we open our mind to this interaction. Okay? So the practice of the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa is divided into few parts. Let's make an overview first. Okay? We have, first there is the preliminaries, which are very important, but we are not going to go into details on it, otherwise we will only do that. Then, once there is the preliminaries, there is the actual practice, and then there is, by the end, the conclusion. You could say that this is like every sadhana is divided into this way. So first there is the preliminaries, and if we take the actual sadhana here, the preliminaries goes from page number 6 up to page number 12, basically, where there is invocation. Okay? This is called the preliminaries. Then there is the actual practice, which is divided into 3 parts, let's say. Okay? 4 parts. The actual practice is divided into 4 parts. The 4 parts are inviting the wisdom bin and generating the merit field. So visualizing the field of merit and inviting the wisdom bin. The field of merit is someone with whom we can interact. Through this interaction, it can help us to accumulate positive energy. That's why it's called the field of merit. It's like a field where we can plant merit, and it can grow well. Okay? So basically, the first part of the 4 is where we invite Lama Tsongkhapa. And this is the first part. So basically, we generate the commitment bin. The commitment bin is the bridge. Okay? And the commitment bin can be in 3 forms, basically. It can be visualized, imagined. Because when you imagine a person, think about anyone. Think about your grandma. Okay? And when you think about that person, the image that comes to your mind connects you to the person. Okay? So the image that we have in our mind, it's our commitment bin. The person is the wisdom bin. And then we put the 2 together and they become one. We relate to the memory and we relate to the person at the same time. Similar to that, we imagine Lama Tsongkhapa. And our imagination, the image that we imagine of Lama Tsongkhapa is our commitment bin. Or we can have a painting or an external representation like a painting or a statue. This is also a commitment bin. Or there is no photos of Lama Tsongkhapa. The most near representation that I ever saw. Yeah, this is not a photo, that's a painting, nice one. And but the most near representation which I saw was a small statue of Lama Tsongkhapa, this size, which I saw in Tibet, which is called, the name of this statue, very famous statue, is called Madrama. It is said that there were 7 of these statues, but many of them were destroyed. There was one that remained, which was owned by the Panchen Lama. And this statue was done in the time that Lama Tsongkhapa was alive. Like he gave the order to an artist to make a statue of him. And when the statue was finished, he looked and it said, it looks like me. So Madrama means, it looks like me. That's the name of the statue. So basically, that statue, it is inside the heart chakra area of the big statue of Buddha Maitreya that is in Tashilhunpo Monastery. But when the 9th Panchalama put the statue inside, before putting, he called a very good artist and he made a replica of it. The replica is in his altar, which I could go once, and I took a picture of it. I need to find this picture, but there is this. So, and he was not so much, a little bit more fat than in this picture, a little bit more round-faced. Lama Tsongkhapa said he had big noses. His nose was quite big, it was said. That even in before he was so well known, and he was little bit, I don't know, not contradictory, but he had positions that were not necessarily the most common positions in his time philosophically and so on. And there was debating going on, and he was very successful, so there were people that were jealous and so on. So they would call him the big nose guy, you know. That was a way of saying, you know, like not respectful way to talk him. So he was said to have a big nose, Lama Tsongkhapa. And actually Tsongkhapa means the man, the one from the land of onions.
No.
Tsong means onion. Okay, Tsongkha is the land of onion. Tsongkhapa, the one from the land of onions, which is the name of the place where he was born. Okay, his real name was Losang Chakpa, or Sumati Kirti in Sanskrit. In Tibetan, Losang Chakpa. Lobsang means virtuous mind or pure mind. Chakpa means famous. So the well-known virtuous mind, that was his actual name, Sumati Kirti or Losang Chakpa. Tsongkhapa is like our guru, Lama Ganchen Rinpoche. His actual name was Lobsang Tukten Trinle Yarpel. Ganchen is the name of the village where his monastery was from, you know. It's like if Rinpoche's, let's say that at some point there is the center in Dalfsen, and then there is a very, like one Lama living here and always being here, you know, he's in Tibetan way, he would be called Lama Dalfsen, you know. Oh, and there we go to see Lama Dalfsen, you know, and most people even don't know his name, they just call the Lama Dalfsen, you know. That's Lama Ganchen, it's the same. Ganchen is the name of the place where Rinpoche was actually, his monastery was from, okay. And Tsongkhapa also is the common way of calling him, but his actual name was Sumati Kirti. So in this first moment of the practice, we imagine Lama Tsongkhapa, which is the way, very efficient and the most simple way also of generating a commitment being through our imagination. The other form, I said there were three forms, no, of having a commitment being. One way is through mental image. Another way is through external representation, like the painting here, or like a statue and so on. Or of a person, we can have like a picture of someone nowadays. And the third form, which is not commonly referred in this way, but it is also, it's the actual physical body of a person. When we see someone, you know, what we see is the body, but through that body we are able to connect with something that is much beyond, which is the person, which is the wisdom being of that person. Okay? And this is called also the commitment being. And that's why we request enlightened beings to manifest in a physical body, because from these three levels, when we have in the physical body, it's much easier to connect with the being than through an image or through a memory. Okay? So, in the first part of the practice is where we need to connect to the wisdom being. So basically, we generate the commitment being, which is or an image in our own imagination, or a painting, or, yeah, in this case, these are the two possibilities, okay? Mainly. Like when we receive an initiation, we connect to the wisdom being of the deity through the physical form of the guru when we receive an empowerment. Okay? So, I don't know if this is clear what I've just said, you know? Okay, so also our physical guru often is the commitment being through which we connect to the lineage gurus and so on and so on. So there is a particular aspect also there. And then the wisdom being is actual Lama Tsongkhapa, his own mental continuum, his own self. So in the first part of the actual practice is where we invite Lama Tsongkhapa and we connect to Lama Tsongkhapa by opening our mind, and we invite Lama Tsongkhapa to be there. Okay, so we generate the commitment being, and then we invite the wisdom being, and then they both mix and become one. Okay? So this is the first part of the practice. And when I received one day commentary on this part of the practice by my guru in Tibet, Kajang Losam Phuntsur Rinpoche, I think some of you were present that day. I think Rohir was there when we went to see him, and he gave the transmission of the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa, and he started to explain things in such a nice way. He was telling in which direction is the pure land of Buddha Maitreya Tushita, because Lama Tsongkhapa is said to have reborn in Tushita, this pure land where Buddha Maitreya is. And he was saying how many kilometers away is Tushita, in which direction, and things like that, you know, in a very tangible way. And it was quite nice also the way, but the main point is that it's there, you know, it's not just something that's based on our own imagination. But the main point is that we visualize Lama Tsongkhapa in front of us, coming from the pure land of Tushita, from the heart of Buddha Maitreya, being there in front of us, and then we invite the wisdom being to come and become inseparable. Okay, this is the first part of the practice. Second part of the practice is once we are in front of Lama Tsongkhapa, what we do? We practice the 7 limbs. The 7 limbs are 7 things that we should do, and this is based on Buddha's teachings. First of all, whenever we are in front of the Guru, we should practice the 7 limbs. But the 7 limbs goes beyond being in front of the Guru. Any relationship that we have with someone, and we want to have a good way of relating to that person, we do it through the 7 limbs. Okay? And, after going through the overview, I would like this morning to conclude the 7 limbs after we go through the foundation of all good qualities. So first part of the main practice is we invite the wisdom being and by generating the commitment being. Okay? Second part, we practice the 7 limbs, which is we praise and do prostrations, we make offerings, we openly admit our mistakes, we rejoice about the positive aspects and virtual things, we request the presence of Guru Buddha Tsongkhapa to remain with us, we request him to take care of us with the Dharma, and we dedicate our merits. These are the 7 limbs. Okay? We will go through it again. Then the third part is where we request the blessings. Okay? And we do the request the blessings, and the requesting blessings is divided into 2 parts. Okay, which we could count as 1 or we can count as 2. It makes no difference, it's just 2 ways of dividing, which is requesting the blessings of body, speech, and mind, and then requesting the blessings on the gradual stages on the path to enlightenment. Okay, which is the fundament of all good qualities, foundation of all good qualities. This is where we go, we enumerate each step that we want to follow on the path to enlightenment, and we request Lama Tsongkhapa's blessings to be able to realize that step. Okay? So with this, we conclude the main practice, and then there is the last part, which is like the bridge between the main practice and the conclusion, which is actually the most important part of the whole practice, which is the final absorption, in which Guru Tsongkhapa comes, enters through our crown, sits in our heart, and then we meditate of our mind being inseparable of the mind of Tsongkhapa. This is the most important part of the whole practice. And all the rest of the practice is done in order to allow us to do that in the correct way by the end of the practice. And then there is the final conclusion of dedications. Okay? So this is basically the overview of the practice. So once again, we have preliminaries, which is where we generate the motivation. Preliminaries is where we remind ourselves, why am I here doing what I am doing? Then we have the main practice, which is divided into generating the wisdom being and the commitment being. Then, and as one. Then we have the 7 limbs. Then we have requesting the blessings. And then we have the final absorption. and meditating in the absolute Guru Yoga of oneself being inseparable with Guru Buddha Tsongkhapa. And then there is the conclusion, which goes with the dedications and so on. Is it clear? Same like Guru Puja, no difference. Actually, inside Lama Tsongkhapa's tradition, there are two traditions of Guru Yoga, okay, which is called the tradition of Segyu and the tradition of Ensan Yingyu. Okay, so basically after Lama Tsongkhapa died, his disciples were doing the practice of Guru Yoga, and there was two different ways of doing it, which actually are just different verses, but the essence is the same. One is from the monastery of Segyu, and the monastery of Segyu is the one that we have here called Ganden Lhagema, that we normally call as the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa, the one that we have in this booklet. And then the other one is the tradition coming from Gyawa Ensapa, which is the whispered lineage of Ensapa, which is the Guru Puja. You know? And if you do this, or if you do the Guru Puja, what is the difference? The verse is longer and shorter, but it's the same. Okay? Maybe the way of the visualization is little different. The way of the visualization is little different. Okay? But being sincere, I don't know how many of us can make such complex visualizations. When we see the complete visualization of the Guru Puja, is so complicated. I don't know how many can really do it. Sure, someone can make it. I originally thought no one could make it. Then one time I was in Tibet receiving teachings, and then one moment arrived one elder disciple of the abbot, and when he arrived, my master said, okay, come in, and then he made a pause in my teachings. I said, if I need to go out, he said, no, you stay. And then he brought him a question, which was the detail of the visualization of the Guru Puja. And then the two of them were talking about this whole visualization with such clarity. And then I was saying, wow, they really make it, you know. They can really do it. And for example, they were discussing each one of the gurus of the lineage. You visualize them seated and with which implements, and on the side, how many volumes of books each one of them have in accordance with how many volumes they composed. And this type of details, you know. But for most of us, we meditate on what is called Kundu Norbuluk, which is the jewel that comprehends all, which is one image symbolizing all together. Okay? And then if you look this, the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa and Guru Puja is basically the same. The main difference is that in some of them verses are more verses on prostration, less verses on prostration, but it's the same. But what Tibetans have always been quite good is to keep alive all sorts of traditions. So what happens is that I receive a transmission of the Guru Yoga done in this way, then I receive a transmission of the Guru Yoga done in that way. What I do both. So somehow there is this way of keeping alive. What is the danger of this? That at one point we have so many things to do that we don't do any one really well. Okay? And that's where Atisha comes. And Atisha said to Tibetan, he said, you Tibetans practice 100 deities and do not realize any. We Indians, actually he said the opposite, he said, we Indians practice one deity and realize all. You Tibetans practice 100 and realize none. So, there is this aspect. So when we do the Guru Yoga, if you do through the text of the Gandela Gema, or if you do through the text of the Guru Puja, it's the same. Okay? But there is one very important thing that I want to be able to share with you these 2 days, which is any sadhana that we take, like this one, it has 3 levels of practice inside of it. Okay? The first level is how to recite, which are the words to say, the melody, the meaning of the words, and so on. So we go to the recitation part. That's the first level, which is important, but that's the first level. Second level of the practice, on each part of the practice, there is not only how to recite, but there is the more deeper level, which is what to visualize, what you imagine inside your mind as you go to that part of the practice. And then there is a third, deeper level, which normally is not explained, which is what is the state of mind that you should generate in that moment of the practice. What's the state of consciousness that you should be generating in that moment of the practice? And that's the actual objective of doing the sadhana. Okay? So, recitation is important, but the recitation is there in order to give support for the visualization, and which is there in order to give support for a certain state of mind that we generate. And doing a sadhana like this, for me, it is very similar to something like a sort of virtual reality experience. Because what we do is that we create a whole reality. We are meeting Lama Tsongkhapa. You know? It's like a sort of virtual trip in which we go to meet Lama Tsongkhapa. So we imagine there and we prepare ourselves, and then we imagine that we meet Lama Tsongkhapa, and then we relate ourselves to Lama Tsongkhapa, and then we receive all the blessings, and then finally Lama Tsongkhapa absorbs into us, we become one with Lama Tsongkhapa, and then we are back into our daily life again. Okay? This is what we are doing here. So there is a whole process that we go through inside of us. Okay? So every sadhana that we do, self-healing, Guru Puja, Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa, Yamantaka, Vajra Yogini, any sadhana, we should remember that every part of a sadhana have these three levels. What to recite, which goes together the mudras to do, and so on, and the meaning of the words, which is the external part of the sadhana. What to visualize, and then remember that these two, they are in function of what state of consciousness to generate. Okay? It's like one time, Geshe Kuncho Gyaltsen, this friend of Rinpoche also, living in Italy, this elder Geshe, he told me the story that he was together with Son Rinpoche, one of Rinpoche's gurus, and they were in a bus station in India. And Son Rinpoche, he had so many hours of daily practices to do. It was a very, very long practice, and it was common for his near attendants to do the practice together with him. So they knew that he had a lot to do every day, like, okay, long sadhana of this, long sadhana of that. It was a lot of things to do every day. And one day they were traveling, and he knew that he did not have done his practice yet. So Geshe Kuncho Gyaltsen went to Son Rinpoche. They were in the middle of this busy bus station. And he said, "Oh, Rinpoche, our bus is late, so I'm going to look for a quiet place where you can sit to do your practice, because it's getting very late, you know, and we will not have time afterwards to do it." He said, "Oh, okay." And it was just sitting there like this, and with eyes closed in silence. And then he went away. He came back like after 15 minutes, and he found a place. And he said, "Oh, Rinpoche, I found a place." He said, "No, I finished already the practice." And he said, "It's impossible to recite all of that in the 15 minutes. Normally it takes 2 hours. But when you do a sadhana and you have a lot of experience, you can do it with recitation, but it's also possible to do without recitation. You go through the mental process of the whole sadhana without needing to say the words. Then it's like much faster. Okay? This is just to say that the actual practice has these three different levels, but the level that we want to reach mainly is the states of mind that we generate. Why? Because our mind doesn't change only through logical and conceptual understanding. We need to generate experiences and repeat these experiences again and again. Okay? So, what happens in our mind by logical and conceptual understanding is one thing. What happens in our mind when we have an actual experience is something else. So we need to generate positive experiences that helps us to familiarize ourselves with the qualities that we want to develop. So the concept of the sadhana is generating this inner experience in which we generate positive states of mind with which we want to familiarize ourselves. Because when we imagine something, for our mind is as if we are doing it physically. Okay? So I'm saying this also because sometimes we may think that to do the practice is just to recite it. And this is just the first step. Important, but just the first step. Okay? That's why some people say, is it okay if I recite it in English or in Dutch or in Japanese, whatever language? Yes, it's okay. it's important for me to keep the Tibetan for different reasons. One reason is that I do not trust translations. Not because I don't trust the translators, I don't trust the translations. Because I see there are many things that have so many different ways how you can translate from Tibetan. And I think the Dharma in the West is not mature enough in our languages to have a translation that is fully functional. And the second thing is that Tibetan language has a way of structure that you can do the melodies, and the melodies also have a particular blessing and power in the way of reciting with the melodies. It's completely different when you have a certain melody and when you just read it. It makes a big difference. So that's why Tibetan language, it's good to be kept also, but you can do the practice in any language actually. Okay? So now, I just need, if someone can just lend me one phone or something, or just one watch, just for me to have one. I just need something that I can look at time from time to time. Otherwise, I have no problem, but then we know time is relative, but still. Thank you. So, we go very briefly to the sadhana, okay? And the first thing that I will do is give you a transmission of the sadhana. We had an overview. The transmission is something that is given a lot of importance to it, the oral transmission, which means I received the oral transmission, I listened it from different of my gurus, I received the oral transmission of this sadhana from Lama Ganche Rinpoche, from Trichan Rinpoche, from Geshe Shiwanchuk, from Kyabche Tragon Rinpoche, from the abbot of Tashilumpo in Tibet, Kachin Losam Puncha Rinpoche. I received it from the Dalai Lama. I received from many masters the transmission of this Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa. They received from their masters, they received from their masters until it reaches back to Lama Tsongkhapa himself. Okay, so there is this concept of the oral lineage and transmission, which is something very important. So I will first give you the transmission, then we go together through a brief explanation of the different steps. Mainly, I want to give emphasis on the second and third level, which is what to visualize and which state of consciousness to generate. This is where I want to give more emphasis than the actual words that we recite, which is more easy, that everyone can understand easily. Okay? So as we do the transmission, you imagine that above my head is my own guru, such as Lama Ganche Rinpoche, Kyabche Trichan Rinpoche, and so on, from whom I received this empowerment. Above them is their gurus, and then it goes up to Lama Tsongkhapa, which is behind me, the image, so it's somehow easy. Then from Lama Tsongkhapa comes this flow of light that goes to each one of them, to my heart, and then from my heart goes to each one of you. So as I say the words and you listen, you imagine that all the blessings that come with the words and all the meanings, it comes and it enters your mind and it's absorbed by your mind together. Okay? Lame ne jo gande la gema shu su. Namo Guru Bhye, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Tre Ratnaya, Sangye Chono Soke Chono Mla Chancho Marta Tanyi Gedo Cheta Ke Chono Kibe Sonan Ke Rola Tanche Sangye Rupa Cho Tamche Tamche Dewa Tande Ven Kyo Tande Mar Kyo Che Tamche Tamche Dunga Tanunga Ke Kyo Tan Rawa Kyo Che Tamche Tamche Dunga Mebe Dewa Tame Rewa Kyo Che Tamche Tamche Nyiren Che Tanyi Tan Trewe Tanyo Lane Par Kyo Che Simche Yan Tamche Lu Sim Ke Dunga Le Soche Trayo Lu Tan Dewa Tande Ma Kyo Che Tamche Tamche Nga Sa Tamche Chine Ne Che Koryo Tanche Samane Kyo Che Tamche Tamche Tan Tamburinge Kento Tata Che Nange Che Teta Tukyo Te Par Kyo Che Tamche Tani Ta Che Ta Se Mala Sa Me Bada Lo Te Tanya Bendere Ne Che Shembone Kyo Che La Ta Miye Che Benda Nga Sa Chala Ikir Kwensa Chere Nana Menam Ke Kama Kyo Kir Chom Namo Bhagavate Benza Sara Brahmadane Tata Gata Yara Te Samya Sambudaya Taya Taum Benze Benze Ma Te Benze Ma Vidya Benze Ma Bodhi Chita Benze Ma Bodhi Mande Pasangramana Benze Sarva Karma Avara Na Vichotana Benze Sam Kunjo Sangye Dembata Sangye Tanjo Dembatam Jeki Jingila Natsoni Yosu Bengada Chobota Jeki Nambata Jezangye Mika Beto Kiti Shini to Gyuru Che Gandela Ke Kungi to Ganero Gajo Bunde Jene Jeki Gabo Kungela Sandras Najemane Nishezo
Dinge nam kara sente pende je lama ke bezon kar jana de bezon ne jodo de mbake ke kera sho so so shi ji kyung ja wala ro to ke na ma kyung lo je son ro be ke la me ze be ko to na de be de la ja de yon jo na za me da de je de bo na de ja zo mo je ro jo de ke zo de son shin jo ke la jo bo kan sho to me de ne sa ba ilong ai ke mi ke ji ke da ke bo da ma zong ke me de je ni ne ke bo ni ne ge ba cha bo so so sha ni me de ma do ro la zo je ke ba be de je de je ko mo ke la ja de ba la da ja ma ta be rong je zo ma ta ma ke no ke 최고 갈라 겐세 틴틴에 춘제엔 때 지다라 삼배 뒤전대 말아서 저기 잡아도 남다 왜네 남다 왜세 잉내 신바에 손주 골라 주는 민가야 담에 나무 소거라 바에 세대 버도 미나 데버쇼 다게 진여 삼에 개와지 단로 갈라 가메다 개버저 로단 로바에 데 메님 버는데 세 요사지 벽에 주지메로라 그런 이신이 되게 바데 상계 신도 미대 워기 조건 남다 신라 저버서 이동 거라 남들라 컴 니리아타 야미 미메제베 되지 제르데 미게 메원보 좀 빌려도 뭐라 좀 삼에나 간저게 베속에 동가 발로 산라베 접라서 바데 우마고로 가자더라서 마데 길데 세디 홈 연den군 게 신교 전제제 주신 담발 남게 자와로 레퍼톤에 베바드마이 크바 전부 담발 전결로 렌진이 베데와 단사디 신도 내가 신도 내가 도지시기는 인생군 님볼렘벨로 기점에 밖에 와 전결로 로서 여와 주의 주부 신유도 주부 제와는 바다 시바제로 단점에 канал에 드시나 원다 내가 덴본이는 님에서 다시 잡아는 게 보아다 계속 다들 바제발라도 너도 바다네 버전결로 제비민고 되용아 공기거에 되면서 세배군덕에 님에는 답에 대와라 드니에 전부 겨버전결로 남다 삼바 대타마에 담다시 바요 전부에 담바사와서 답을 두번님도 제버전결로라니스 들어와 제전도 마게 도와 공개되라와 돈에 도와 공개에 전주선이 중앙 전결로 생산기가 소리는 소라고 보면은 저점에 발레 거던에 베바도 발라 선바도 볼로 버전결로 노베율라 예워시진야다 대양다 대라 투진 점바에 신의 하도 손도 되벨은 여도 길라 겨버전결로 도몰람자는 되게만한 대방이 저게도 저때 개발 계산 개워 정어 다바다 되는 얘도 저버전결로 대생으로 남녀를 배신한다는데 너무 너무나 중앙이 병마에 윤에서도 동안 전결로 되는 교대님 버는 얘기 내 남지 신년 돈에도 봐야 둔신에 내저 철미와 담배 선수로 버전결로 대단한 사태매 신년당 수지로 배려나 쳐다시 제단한 게 바로 저에서 녀라 10월 징계라도서 개와 공도 연다 라마다 라면 지기 별로는 저제 사다는 게 연다는 선에 너저 청계 거반율도 배쇼 발딩에 사회라 말은 뭐저다 기치월 배대대 전라 가든지 뭐거는 저던데 구선도기 원로서도 반에 사회라 말은 뭐저다기 인가 배대대 전라 가든지 뭐거는 저던데 저던데 뭐원로서도 반에 사회라 말은 뭐지 나기 닌가라 배대대 전라 가든지 뭐거는 저던데 저던데 전전님 버도 템브라쇼 아라바타나 디 구루스마테 케데 श्री바드라 서와시디 아티스트나 아티스트 쿠르바난 투 세라 군도 경화성가 배대주신 영어로 잡에도 경험 하고는 이렇게 3년 더 벌어마 교류주주 사람의 고대로 되지는 거는 주주게 받아서 선대면 그러면서 선기로 왜 문제 다도는 요지게 와 군도 양달라마다라면 저게 별로 주주 사달람 유연대로는 또 이제 거만여로 저는 좀 뭐제 만게 받는 게 요지게 받냐 몸에 방향 거네 건도 또 저 개와 대연으로 다나마상게 두기는 로지게 말아 봐 대이 살아 거버전이 뭐 들었던데는 님의 고연들 주인들 나도 들레페 군조숨게 징게로 군조숨게 원조서 군조숨게 다시 쇼 뭐로 군조 도와들 점에 제베데 제네데 점에 뭐 점이라도 뭐 전상에다 간직에 배서 산다견도 건도 라마상게라고 생각해서는 서와데 라시미 진도버 징게로 초단 투몽 원조 세도 소 초단 투몽 원조 세도 소 초단 투몽 원조 세도 소 라리안 제외 케라 탐세르기에 두제 넘버 중에 랑루칸 두제 두 남아 제선 잠양게 넘버 세레 외조 초주 갸단 세제 제외 케라로 갸단 테세 제외 케라 남 하구에 넘버 담베 르간데 람전 슌도 첼라 토바오 토마 토메페 랍젠 셰라바 토브라 징게로 라리안 세웨 케라 머세기에 두제 넘버 넘버 중에 런르칸 두제 두남 아라바자나 밍메체 다 믹세 마다 양세 세르로 오 세르돌 웨트 웨스레 트베 세르웨 케라 나마 송아 넘버 팀베 르칸테 칸네 차시 마다 체바예 세웨 셰라 토브라 칭게로 라리안여웨 케라 마세기 두제 넘버 중에 런르칸 디에 홍예 디에 홍예 마라세르기 넘버 세레 웨조 초조예 가단테 세뉴르웨 케라 나마 사베 넘버 팀베 르칸테 마도로도 테섬뉴르스페 뉴르웨 셰라 토브라 징게로 라리아사베 케라 머세게 두제 넘버 중에 런르칸 두제 두남레밤 라디에 넘버 세레 웨조 초조 웨조 초조예 갸단 테세사베 케라 나마 찬세 넘버 팀베 르칸테 슌데 젤라토베
Tuba meba ye sabe shera parva share o sabe shera parge chingi lop o laryan chebe kenra marsegi dutsi nambra chungwe ran lokan dutsi dunam la dutsi dunam cheche lebamgi nambra sewe wedro chochu yi gadan teze chebe kenram nam lebama nambra timbe lugante sikdun kun la ngeba chok terwe chebe sheraba tok Chingi lo laryan tsebe kera matsege tutsi nambra jungwe ran lokan tutsi duna radri koloi nambra sele wedro chokchu ye gyadante se tsebe kera nam kolo nambra timbe logante mange bo pa ma o mikme cheba ye tsebe shera tabra chingi lo laryan tsebe kera matsege tutsi nambra jungwe ran lokan tutsi dunam lebama koro lo yi Nambra sele wesere wedro chok chu ye gyadante se tsumbe geranam leipama korlo timbe lugante dadun pyonso lese ga kepe tsube sheraba tobra chingi lo. So with this, we conclude the transmission of the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa together with the extra visualizations of the recitation of the mantra. Okay? So, I would say we can go through the sadhana together, okay, without going into many details on each part, but trying to connect with the meaning of each part, okay? Because if we go into details, then we can stay only in the preliminaries for 2 days, this is for sure, okay? So, I will try to give you a little bit, because many of you have been doing practices since long time, so I will try to give you a little bit what is, how to say, behind the lines. Something which is, let's try to connect with the visualization, but more than the visualization, to the meaning behind, to the state of mind that we are to generate at each part of the practice, okay? So we start from the very beginning. And actually there is one part of the sadhana, of the preliminary practices, which is not written, because there is nothing to recite. But it's part of it also, which is important that before you start with the actual Namo Guru Bhye Namo Buddhaya, it's important to do some basic breathing meditation. So just sit down in the right position with the 7 postures of Vedachana, which means basically back straight, shoulders relaxed, eyes slightly closed, mouth relaxed, and then you focus your mind on your own breath. Allow yourself to bring your presence to the present moment. Okay? And this doesn't need to be very long, but it's important that before we start with the actual recitation, our mind is more present at the present moment. We just don't, it's not like we sit and while we are still thinking about the lunch and the job and this and that, we start reciting Namo Guru Bhye Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharmaya Namo Sanghaya. Or maybe we are somehow used, so we go with a beautiful melody and we put our eyes up as if we are concentrated on something special, when actually our mind is completely somewhere else. Okay? Because this can happen also, no? We are used to it, we do Namo Guru Bhye. Now our mind is who knows where. Okay? Okay, thinking about Dutch politics, or thinking about an object of attraction or an object of aversion, or who knows what. Okay? So in order to help us for that, first thing that we need to do is sit down, allow yourself, observe your own breath, bring your mind to the present moment. Calm down the inner dialogue for a moment. Okay? This is the first thing. And then this depends on each one of you. It can take longer, it can take shorter, but this is the first part. Okay? Which we're not going into details on that right now. Second part, which is the first part which we have in the sadhana written, which is making meditation on taking refuge, is the moment in which we will actually ask ourselves, why am I here? doing this practice? What do I want? Why am I doing this? And to make this well, we should, before reciting, make at least a very brief meditation on the Four Noble Truths. And to do that, we make few questions to ourselves. First question is, what do I want to avoid? What is suffering? And we go through it until we are able to see the all-pervasive suffering. So we go through the suffering of change, the all-pervasive suffering, and we are able to see samsara in front of us, to see our own cycle of existence and mental defilements and actions and karma and the karmic force of the past ripening at the present and the cycles in which we live. We are able to see our own samsara. And we are not talking about seeing our daily problems, seeing our inner cycle of samsara, And then when we are able to see that, we ask, but where is this suffering coming from? Is it coming from external causes, or is it coming from my own selfishness and anger and jealousy and envy, and ultimately from my own ignorance and my own actions, karma? When we see this clearly, then comes the next question is possible to be free from all of this? Yes. Because it's possible to diminish the defilements, it's possible to make my own inner qualities better. So yes, it's possible. So, how nice would it be if I would experience true inner peace? Then comes, what can I do to do that? To do that, what can I need to do? I need to cultivate my qualities, I need to abandon my negative habits of the defilements, and to do this I need help. So we imagine Guru Buddha in front of us, in the aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni, and that's when we take refuge and we say, please help me, show me the path, because I don't want to be anymore in samsara. We need to be careful not to do this part of the practice just as a habit or something, because it is a Buddhist practice, so you need to recite refuge. Then we start and we go there. Namo Guruvye, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Guruvye, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Then we go Sangye, Chadan Zoge Chanam La, Janjo Varodani Gazaje, Dagen Zoge Chanam Ge, Allah Benja Sangye, and then even if you look in the Tibetan way of speaking, in the monasteries, when you do something in an automatic way, let's say you clean the room. I ask you, can you please help me to clean this place? And you come to clean it. And you don't clean it really with awareness. You just go and you just like this, and you don't check the corners, you don't go under the table, you don't really clean with awareness. You do in a sort of automatic way without awareness. The way of saying that you did it in this way is this job that you did it for the benefit of all sentient beings. This means you didn't do it well. Where this is coming from? Drola pincher sangye drubrasho. Sangye chodal soge chonam la janjo bardo dani ke doje dage jinda ke drola pincher sangye drubrasho. Drola pincher. Drola pincher means for the benefit of all sentient beings. So it's a sarcastic way of saying that we shouldn't do the practice like this. But that often it just becomes a habit that we just recite quickly, and we lose contact with its true meaning. We do it without awareness, and we shouldn't allow that to happen. That's why, And then it's interesting because this is so important, the masters of the past said, you need to recite taking refuge at least 100,000 times. Then we get fixed to the number. We need to do retreat. Preliminaries mean I need to recite Namo Guruvye, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya 100,000 times. It doesn't matter where my mind is. Then we finish, I finished the preliminaries. I completed 100,000 times of taking refuge. I am done. Far away from being done. It's not a matter of how many times. There is no such a thing of karmic counter, Like, okay, you did the 100,000 recitations, cling, then the next step. It's not like that, you know. It is a matter of repeating the process of taking refuge so many times that it becomes deep into us. We need to go beyond recitation. Otherwise we get blocked into this level of just reciting. So when we take refuge, when we generate the bodhicitta, it's important to give at least some attention to it. So in this moment, it's one of the most important moments of the practice. And it's like the foundation of the practice. If this is done well, all the rest will follow it. If this is not done well, then you are trying to build something without having an actual foundation on it. So that's why give some time for the refuge. Meditate on the Four Noble Truths. Go through these questions. And then you see Guru Buddha. Then as you do the recitation of refuge, you have light and nectar coming from the 5 chakras to your 5 chakras. And you generate this inner feeling of being loved and protected and guided as you receive refuge. And this brings you to the state of mind, which is called the certainty of emergence, so-called renunciation, which is this feeling, I can get out of samsara. I can make it. That's what we need to generate when we do the taking of refuge. Okay? Second is where we need to generate bodhicitta. And again, it's not a matter of reciting. It's a matter of generating the mind of bodhicitta. You know? Even if you look, the title is Meditating on Taking Refuge and Generating Bodhicitta. So meditating means familiarizing oneself with that. The name of the part of the practice is not familiarizing yourself with the recitation of the prayer of generating bodhicitta. So it's really, really important for us to go through that. So in this moment, as we do the bodhicitta, what are we supposed to connect our mind with? First level, taking refuge. Why am I doing the sadhana? Because I want to get out of samsara. It's not enough just to have a nice, comfortable life. I need truly to overcome my own inner cycle of defilements and ignorance and selfishness and karma and all of this. I need to go beyond that. Second level, I need to go beyond this and expand that feeling towards others. So for me, one of the formulas that helps me a lot is before making the recitation of Sangye Chulun Soge Chanamla, imagine other sentient beings around us. And to imagine others, we first imagine the ones that we are connected with. So imagine our family, our friends, the people we work with, the animals that we have relation with, like everyone that is around our life that is connected. And from us, those that are connected to them. Then those that are connected to them. And like this we expand through all sentient beings. Okay? And then we are allowed to look at them, and the formula that for me works very well is I imagine myself looking at each one of them and saying to them, your happiness is as important to me as my own. Your suffering is as important to me as my own. It's quite powerful to say this to someone. Because how is our own happiness important to us? Is priority number 1. So if your happiness is as important to me as my own, it means it's also priority number 1. It means I love you. If your suffering is as important to me as my own, means it's also priority number 1. Means I have compassion of you. So to be able to look to someone and say, your happiness is as important to me as my own, is actually very powerful. It's not just I love you, it's beyond the normal I love you. And if someone say, your happiness is more important than my own, don't trust. That's not true. Sorry. So, in this moment we look and we say, your happiness is as important as mine. Your suffering is as important as mine. And in the moment that your happiness is important to me as my own happiness, how much do I want you to be happy? Fully. So this brings this intention to say, I want to help you to be happy. I want to help you to be free from suffering. And I will do anything necessary for that. That's when we look and we say, but what can actually I do to help you to get out of samsara? I need first to get out myself. How can I help you to be patient when I am not patient? How can I help you to be in peace when I am not in peace? That's when it comes. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge into enlightenment through the practice of generosity, morality, patience, joyful effort, concentration, and wisdom. By perfecting my qualities, may I reach the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. In other words, I want to help everyone to be free from suffering and to have happiness. And in order to do that, I must practice well my own path of development so that I can become a Buddha, so that I can help everyone in the best way. So this is the motivation, the intention that we generate here. Okay? So at least in this moment of the practice, we should allow us to open a little bit our heart towards others, at least that. And one of the images is like, one other technique that we can do here, we can go together, is we connect inside ourselves to our own desire, which is this very basic instinct that we have of wishing to be happy and not wanting to suffer. That we all have, right? So we connect to that instinct, and then we imagine that same attraction to happiness and aversion to suffering that we have, that it expands, and it includes others. At least we try to do that process, and then we try to open our hearts towards others, and that's when we generate the bodhicitta. Okay? So then, why am I doing the practice? Because I want to develop my qualities, because I want to help others to do the same, to develop their own qualities and to get out of their own cycle of suffering. So this is the moment in which we are focusing on why am I doing the practice, which the next part of the sadhana, which is the 7 limitless meditations, is basically where we are once again, making it simple, we are putting emphasis on the reason why we are about to do the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa. Why am I doing the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa? Because I want all sentient beings to be free, to be happy, to be free from suffering, not to be separated from joy and well-being, and to be in equanimity, to experience physical health, mental health, to live in a pure environment, to be in peace. And in order to help that to happen, I must myself develop my qualities so that I can interact with them in the best way, in order to help them. Because the way how I am now, I am limited. Okay? So, we could go on many details on this part, which we are not going to do. Okay? But on a very basic level, at least when we do this part of the sadhana, we need to try to connect to this part of making clear our own purpose, and then our own purpose as serving others, in the service of others. Okay? And that's why I'm doing this sadhana. It's not because I want to be a good Buddhist. It's not because I have the commitment to do the sadhana. It's not because I enjoy doing the sadhana. It's because I see it as a way truly of benefiting others by developing my own qualities. And I need to familiarize myself with my qualities so that I can develop it, so that I can help others. So this is the main reason why I am doing the sadhana. There is one part that in the Guru Puja is very explicit, which here is not, which is in the Guru Puja text. There is the part which says, 말씀전 담책이 된도 뉴로 야다버 조베상게 코반도 버차 테 칩도 람사모 라말라인을 전념서 라마르 키고 which is may all sentient beings may I reach the state of Buddhahood quickly, as quick as possible, so that I can help every sentient being to get out of suffering. And for that reason, I will now enter into the practice of the Guru Yoga, of the Guru Yidam. So basically, it means, why am I going to do the sadhana? Because I want to help every sentient being, and because of that, is the reason why I'm doing the sadhana. So this is where you generate a specific motivation. Okay? And then there is beautiful visualizations to be done in this moment, but we don't go into that detail right now. At least we concentrate on the reason why I am doing the sadhana, why I am sitting here in the cushion and doing this sadhana, and I am not watching the news or drinking some coffee or having a walk with my dog or whatever, you know. Why am I doing this? We connect with the reason behind it. Okay. Then on page 10, we have the purification of the sides, transformation of the offerings, the offering mantra, and then later we have expressing the power of the truth. This is the preparation for the wisdom being to come, for the commitment being and the wisdom being. Because an important part of the sadhana is where we need to connect with Lama Tsongkhapa. So imagine Lama Tsongkhapa will come to your house. What the first thing that you would do before knowing that Lama Tsongkhapa today, this afternoon, Lama Tsongkhapa is coming? So what I do first thing? Clean. Right? We prepare the place. It's not like anyone coming. So we'll clean the place. This is the part, purification of the site. We imagine that we purify the place, we make the environment beautiful because we are preparing for someone special to come. Then, second, once we finish cleaning, when Lama Tsongkhapa comes, what happens? We give him just a glass of water, or we try to give him a nice lunch, and we offer something nice to eat. Hopefully we offer something nice to eat. Okay. So what happens is, before having something nice to eat, we need to prepare it. So we need to go to the market, choose the right vegetables, prepare everything to make a nice meal. And this is the part which is here, transformation of the offerings and offering mantra. Basically, we are preparing the offerings in front of us. Okay? And it's interesting to see that actually all these practices, they are basically, how to say, based on our normal human way of interacting. The function of this is not that I need to make offerings so that the Buddhas are happy and I make merit. That's not the point. I need to cultivate in my mind a state of gratitude and faith and so on. And making offerings is helping for that. Okay? So I need to prepare the offerings before. So in order to prepare the offerings, there are two types of offerings. There are physically done offerings and mentally generated offerings. So when we prepare the offerings, we can have their water bowls, candle, incense, flower, fruits, whatever we put outside. But then we have also the mentally generated offerings, the ones that we imagine. So this is the moment of the practice where we prepare the place. So we imagine all the beautiful place around us, the environment. Then we imagine that the environment is free from any sort of conflicts and negativities. Then we have beautiful offerings placed in front of us. And then these offerings, they are not just mentally done, but they're actually there. We try to give sort of, how to say, validity to the offerings that we visualize, okay? This is what we call expressing the power of the truth. So with this, we complete the part of the preliminaries. Okay, I'm making an effort myself not to go into details, okay? But then we complete with this, we complete the preparation. The next part, which is, let's say, the mental process, the inner process is quite simple. But the better we do the preparation, the better we can do the actual practice. It's like, that's why, for example, when doing tsok, or when we do the protector council, you know, why the offerings of the tormas are done with so much care and so on. The real reason is because the more I prepare carefully, the more I am already actually creating the conditions to be able to offer. I'm already preparing inside also. And it's like, for example, Rinpoche once told me that there is one Lama called Samdo Rinpoche. And in Tibet, when they were doing protector puja once a month, like the long protector council, no? He would do, whenever he would do in his house, he would take at least 3 days to do the council. 2 days of preparation and 1 day of actual prayers. So 2 days he will clean the place, make all the offerings with the minimum details and prepare everything in this way. Because this is a way of already entering into it, you know, you already start preparing it, like it makes a big difference actually. It's like if you welcome someone, you have a beautiful Christmas dinner for your family and friends. When does the actual dinner start? When people come, or when you start making a nice invitation and you go to the market to buy the things? All this is part of the process of making it special and people experiencing beautifully, no? There is a difference if you're going through all this process of preparing it, or if you just go all together out to the restaurant. There is difference or not? All the love you put into it, all this makes a big difference. That's why the part of preparing, it's also important into this, okay? So this is similar to that, up to here, to the part of expressing the power of the truth, is basically where we prepare the place and the offerings because we're about to invite Lama Tsongkhapa to come here. The next part is where we're actually inviting Lama Tsongkhapa, okay? So, the lines that says Gandela Gegunge Tugane Rakochesa Pundachung Chuki Gabu Kungelo Sandra said and Chepan and the Chess Hotungan independent Lama gave it Zongache Dalo Tebe Sonam Shinchoto Tembagechi Kelger Shuksu Sol. On the summit of a cloud which resembles a heap of fresh white curd emanating from the heart of the Lord of 100 deities of Tushita sits omniscient Sumatikirti, king of Dharma, together with his sons. I request them to descend to this place. In the space before me, upon a lion throne, lotus and moon, appears the venerable Guru, smiling radiantly with delight. You, supreme field of merit, for my faithful mind's collection of merit, in order that the teachings may flourish, I request you to remain for hundreds of eons. So basically, what we do here now is we imagine in front of us. We need to generate the so-called Samaya Sattva, the commitment being, which is the connection that makes us between us and Lama Tsongkhapa. So we'll imagine Lama Tsongkhapa, similar to the image that they here behind me. We imagine Lama Tsongkhapa in front of us, and Lama Tsongkhapa is said to reside at the Pure Land of Tushita. Tushita is said to be that we have the human realm, and then there is the Deva realm. And the Deva realm has different levels, like different places. So in the top of the Deva realm is Tushita. It's a part of it. It's not in the whole of it. In the heart of it, there is Tushita. It's like a town in a country, let's say. Okay. And in Tushita is where Buddha Shakyamuni was there before coming to earth. And actually, it is said that like these Buddhas, basically, they had like in the beginning of this eon, and which is like a long period. And in my understanding, one eon is like the beginning of a system and the completion of that system. So we could say that it's like when we think about our own solar system, is when it starts and when it ends. And then after that, there are another beginning, and there are countless solar systems around and worlds and so on. So in this eon of ours, there was this sort of gathering of enlightened beings, and they had a meeting and they say, okay, who is the first one to go? Who will hold there to help? And then it is said that they looked to each other and said, oh, these times are so difficult. Who will be able to tame such difficult people, you know, to show them the Dharma? And finally, Buddha Shakyamuni was the one that said, okay, I will go. And then the second one was Buddha Maitreya. He said, after him, I will go. And then all the others got some courage, let's put it this way. And there you have the list of 1,000 Buddhas of this era. Okay. But anyhow, that's not the important thing. The important thing is that the next Buddha, which should be manifesting formally, is Buddha Maitreya, which is the Buddha of love. And it is said that in a time of total degeneration, where there will be no any more connection with anything spiritual and with pure human qualities, it will be mostly degenerated. That's when Buddha Maitreya will come, and he will again, through the power of love and beauty actually, because it's said that everybody will be so much angry and so much self-centered that everybody will become very ugly also. So with so much violence and anger that will be there, and Buddha Maitreya will manifest extremely beautiful and full of light. And people will see him and say, how come you are so beautiful? And then he starts teaching about love. This is making a long story short. So Buddha Maitreya, which is actually symbolizing the personification, the embodiment of love, that's actually the meaning of Maitreya. So we can also see that from the embodiment of love comes this source of like a cloud, white like yogurt. Because in the text, as it says, from the heart of the Lord of the 100 deities of Tushita. This basically is a way of saying Buddha Maitreya. So from the heart of Buddha Maitreya comes this white cloud, which like in his heart is very small. And then as it comes toward it opens near to us. And on top of this beautiful white cloud, it's sitting Lama Tsongkhapa together with his two disciples, main disciples, which is called Gyatso Rinpoche and Kedrup Rinpoche. So Gyatso Rinpoche and Kedrup Rinpoche are the two main disciples of Lama Tsongkhapa. One is with more white hair, the other one little wrathful face, which is called Kedrup Rinpoche. But we can also focus mainly on Lama Tsongkhapa in front of us. And once we visualize Lama Tsongkhapa smiling at us with a yellow hat, all the robes and everything as is normally represented, then we request from our heart sincerely for the actual wisdom being of Lama Tsongkhapa to come and be there. So through this representation, we request, please, Guru Tsongkhapa, come and be here with me. Come to bless my mind. Come to bless my mind stream so that I can develop love, compassion, wisdom. So please come to this place right now. And as we make this sincere request, we imagine that from the pure land of Tushita and all holy beings comes like a rain of wisdom beings. And as each one of them enter the image of Lama Tsongkhapa that we have in front of us, making the commitment being to become inseparable of the wisdom beings. So then, from that moment on, the visualization that we have in front of us is not just a visualization, it's actual Lama Tsongkhapa there. It's actual Buddha Tsongkhapa there in front of us. Okay? It's like if we have a picture of someone and suddenly the picture takes life and becomes one with the person, you know. This is the feeling that we generate in this moment. Okay? So, in these first two lines, first two verses, is the moment in which we are basically connecting with Tsongkhapa. We are opening our heart towards Lama Tsongkhapa, requesting Lama Tsongkhapa to come and be here. And the best way is if we are able to do this until we have this sort of feeling of presence. Okay? At least we should imagine that Lama Tsongkhapa is there and there is this feeling, oh wow, I am in the presence of Tsongkhapa. It's not just like whatever. Why is it possible? Because when I open my mind, you know, Tsongkhapa as an enlightened being can easily connect from mind to mind. You know? Telepathy is something that exists, especially if there is no physical body. It goes very easily beyond that. So in the moment that I open my mind and Tsongkhapa perceives it, and out of his compassion and wisdom, united with the power of my faith and request, Lama Tsongkhapa come. And the request is not because Lama Tsongkhapa saying, if you don't make a good request, I don't come. It has nothing to do with that. has to do with when I make a request, what I'm doing through the request actually is I'm opening my mind. In the moment that I say, can you please come here? I'm opening my mind for your presence being here. If I don't make the request, probably I'm not even open for you to come here. So by making the request, we're actually opening ourselves for the presence of Guru Tsongkhapa. So we make the request strongly. And we imagine Guru Tsongkhapa in front of us, inseparable of all the Buddhas, of all holy beings, and Tsongkhapa is actually truly there with us. This is the state of mind that we should generate in this moment. Okay? Then, once we are there together with Tsongkhapa, then now what we do? I don't know, what would you do if Tsongkhapa come to your house? You receive such important guests. Then what we do? 7 limbs. There are 7 things to do. Okay? And the 7 things to do, it's very interesting because they are not only in relation with a holy being, like being with Tsongkhapa. This is something that, from my understanding, any relationship that we want to make it healthy, we need to apply the 7 steps, the 7 parts into any relationship. Okay, it can be with our parents, it can be with our lover, it can be with our friends, it can be with our guru. There are the 7 levels of things to do. So the first thing to do is to pay homage. It's like if I enter a house and I meet someone, what's the first thing that we do? We greet. When I greet you means I acknowledge your presence. I enter a place, I meet someone, the first thing that I do is I greet. Have you ever seen someone entering a place and not greeting? I saw many times. What is the feeling that comes when someone enters and do not greet you? The person doesn't acknowledge my presence, doesn't care about my presence. Right? Because when I see her and say, oh, good morning, hello, I look at you, I do something with my hands, I come towards you. This means I acknowledge your presence. That's fundamental. Because this is the moment in which we say, like E.T. phone home, like we create a connection between the two, There we go, there we say, okay, we connect to each other somehow. That's the first thing that we need to do, anywhere we go. We acknowledge the presence, we acknowledge the importance of it. And one of the reasons why we do that is as an antidote for our own pride and arrogance. Because why I don't greet you? Because I am superior to you somehow. Or I am extremely shy. It's also possible. But often I will greet, let's say I enter in a place and there is one person that I care so much and I respect a lot, and someone that I really don't care and I feel superior. Is there a difference of greeting? Yes. Okay. And often it will see someone giving a lot of importance to one person and ignoring completely the other. This is not because of being shy. Okay. So, the first thing to do is, Tsongkhapa is there in front of me. First thing, I need to greet him. And how I greet him? By manifesting my gratitude for his presence, by showing respect. So I greet him physically, in a traditional way. When we see a master is normally at least, or we will bow down, or we will do a full prostration, It's like, if we would be in a different culture, we would do in the practice, we would imagine going towards Tsongkhapa and giving the hand and shaking the hand of Tsongkhapa, But that's a different culture. Okay? So basically, or depending on the culture, you could imagine in the sadhana that you are there, then Tsongkhapa, and you go there and you give 2 kisses to Tsongkhapa, like greeting Tsongkhapa. It's a matter of culture in this way. But the point here is that we show our respect. We cultivate this. And in this moment, we do the praise, which means we recognize the qualities of body, speech, and mind. And we praise the qualities. And in this moment, when we adapt to other relations, let's say that you go to see a friend. And first thing is you greet your friend. And as you greet the friend, there is a part also in which you allow yourself to praise the qualities of that friend. Okay. And when you go to meet anyone, first thing, you connect to the qualities of that person. You praise the qualities of that person. You connect with the qualities. And this is what we do when we do the praising, when we do prostration. Okay? So first thing, we meet Lama Tsongkhapa, we praise the qualities of Lama Tsongkhapa. We remember the qualities of Tsongkhapa. So the verse says, the wisdom of your mind embraces the full extent of all that can be known. Qualities of your mind. Your well-explained teachings are the ear ornament of the fortunate ones. Qualities of your speech. Your beautiful body is illuminated by the glory of your fame. Qualities of your body. I prostrate to you, whom to see, hear, or recollect is meaningful. So basically, I'm saying that your body has special qualities, your speech has special qualities, your mind has special qualities. Connecting to your body, speech, and mind makes my own life meaningful. This is a way of making praise to Tsongkhapa. Okay? But in this moment, it's like we are going to praise Tsongkhapa physically, verbally, and mentally. We make the physical praise by manifesting respect physically, the verbal praise by talking about the qualities of Tsongkhapa verbally, and the mental praise by remembering in our mind the qualities of Tsongkhapa and generating faith. This is how we make the mental praise. Okay? So, in any relation, first thing that we do when we meet someone is we need to praise the person. We need to connect. This is the first thing that we do. Okay? Acknowledge the presence. Praise the other one. Second thing to do is we make an offering. We don't go empty-handed. And making an offering means that actually we materialize our own respect, our faith, our love, our gratitude, our positive feelings that we have towards that person. We materialize it. And this is a powerful thing to do also. And it's an antidote for miserliness. Miserliness, not wanting to give, is an antidote for that. Making prostrations is an antidote for feeling superior, for arrogance. And making offerings is an antidote for not wanting to share and to give. So this is also another important thing for us to develop, which is generosity. So in this moment we make offerings. And sometimes people ask me, how much shall I offer? Okay? The right answer is we shall offer that which is not too much and is not too less. We should make an offering of something that we feel that we are not going beyond the borders of our attachment, like this is too much, we start get so greedy towards what we are offering. That's not okay. But on the other side, we should not offer something just because of the formality of offering, and I need to do it, and I do the minimum there, and I just do. I need to offer what for me is not too much, and for me is not too less. This is what I always did myself. And I think this is the best way. So when I go to meet a friend, when I go to offer anything, when I go to offer to Tsongkhapa, when I go to meet my own guru, I offer something. And it's something that in Tibetan culture is very strong, that we never go anywhere empty-handed. In our Western culture, it's a bit different. It's something that, like even in Tibet or in Nepal, like there is these scenes of people in the middle of the earthquake, they lose everything. People come to help them, and they're still there offering them something when they come. Giving them some water or some tea or something, or a kata or something, And it's like, this is very touching for our culture because we are not so much used to it. And for the Eastern culture, it's quite shocking that you enter the house of someone and they don't offer you anything. It's like, you don't want me to be here? Is there anything wrong with me being here? You don't even offer me water, you don't offer me a tea, you don't do something regarding it, It's like, I saw many times, like in Tibetan culture, someone comes to your house. Maybe you don't want the person to be there for whatever reasons, but you still offer tea and you offer something to eat. This is part of the culture very strongly, you know. So the point here is that when we meet someone, we don't go empty-handed. We always bring something with us. A flower, a scarf, a kata, or something, or offering, or any kind. Okay? So when we go to meet someone, we bring something, and we enjoy it together. This is a powerful part also. It's like when there is the moment of enjoyment, common enjoyment, it actually creates a very good basis for anything that comes after. That's why, for example, the 10th Panchalama, when he invited Lama Ganchen Rinpoche in Tibet, and he made one very big dinner for all the government officials at the time. And then he told Rinpoche, first you need to give them food and you need to drink with them. Enjoy together. Once you're able to enjoy together, then you can talk about any subject. But this is like with anyone, no? When we meet someone and we are able to enjoy something together, we drink something, we eat something, we look something nice, we enjoy something together, it creates a connection. No? And then this makes the basis in order to talk about anything else. So, even with the Buddhas, so first thing, we make offerings. We enjoy together something, okay? So remember, even when you need to do anything with anyone, first you praise them, second you make them an offering. You manifest something. We manifest our faith, our gratitude, our love, and our respect through something material also. This is also very powerful. And this is the moment of making offerings. So we have Lama Tsongkhapa in front of us, so we make offerings to Tsongkhapa. Okay? Third part, we could go on and on about offerings, but we don't need to make it too long. The third part refers to the aspect of once I have made offerings and we have laid a good basis, I need to clean my past towards you. If I come towards you, I need to have, and I want to make something good with you, I need to clean my past. And clean my past means whatever mistakes I did in the past, whatever ways I acted that created tension, whatever tensions there are there between me and you, I openly admit my mistakes and I clean them. I allow them to go away. Because before we walked on a new trip together, before we do something together, we need to be in harmony. Can it happen that we are not in harmony with someone else? It can be our partner, it can be our friend, it can be our family member, our father, our mother, our daughter, it can be our guru, it can be even the Buddhas. Now we can be upset with Tsongkhapa, why not? Could happen. You know, what's the main reason why we will not be upset with Lama Tsongkhapa? It's too far from most of us. We never sat down to eat with Lama Tsongkhapa, and we never had like daily interactions and so on. But in the moment that we have any more nearby relation, our projections and our expectations not met, and many things that happens, we always can generate some little friction there. So after making offerings, what we do is we clean our past. We are able to go there and we openly admit our mistakes, not with the attitude of expecting from the other side to be, how to say, forgiveness. We are not asking for forgiveness. This concept is not there. We are saying, yes, I did some mistakes. I openly admit the mistakes that I did, the ones that I did, the actions that I did consciously that didn't go well, and also the things that I did unconsciously. You know, there are things that I did which were not in my intention, not in my awareness, but yet still they created tension, they created conflict, they created problems. And these wounds are there in my mind. So I openly admit that they happen, and I do something to clean these wounds, to heal these wounds, so that we have a good basis on which to continue together. So this is what we call basically the part of openly admitting our mistakes, which is called here confession. Confession is, I prefer the term openly admitting one's own mistakes than actually confession. Confession have this idea of I did something wrong and how bad I am. And here it's not a matter of saying how bad I am. It's not a matter of pointing the finger to show who is the one to blame. It's a very simple thing of saying this action and that action didn't go well. I recognize that this was not good and I don't want to do it again. So in this moment we imagine Lama Tsongkhapa. We look upon ourselves. We recognize all the times that we used our speech in a violent way towards other people. All the times that we had thoughts of aversion and anger, or thoughts based on jealousy and envy and so on. All the times that we interacted with others in a selfish and violent way and so on. And based on that, we request Lama Tsongkhapa's blessings. Please bless me to have the strength and the clarity not to repeat such actions again. Then we imagine light coming from the heart of Tsongkhapa, like in the form of white nectar. It comes to our crown, fills up our body, and then all the negative karmic forces generated in the past from the actions that we did, they go away from us. It's like tensions that are accumulated, they go away. In the form of dirt that goes out of our porises, and they dissolve into space. And the most of all, it's important through this process to feel that we are in peace with our past. Okay. And when you think about the relationship with anyone else, before doing anything else, it's important to be in peace with the past. So we are not expecting the other to say, yes, you were right, or anything like that. We are, from our own side, we are saying, whatever mistakes I did, I don't want to repeat them again, and I want to clean them. So what we are cleaning is the tension that was generated from it. You know? It's like not long ago, I had the opportunity to go to meet one master, and there were some tensions that were created in the past. Not from me directly, but somehow connected to me. And the way how these tensions were created, no one from my understanding had any wrong intention. But by the matter of fact, tension was generated. So there was this little tension in between. So I went there and I said, look, even though it was not something done directly from me, I openly admit it as a mistake. I see that this and that, independently of the motivation, it generated this and that tension, and I am sorry for it, you know. And then it was so beautiful because it was said to me, you know, thank you for bringing up the subject, because sometimes, as this one, it's just enough to talk about something so that we are able to, what do you say, to melt it, to dissolve it. And then everything was fine. And sometimes we just need to look to each other and to say, you know, I did something, even though it was not in my intention, and I understand that it generated this bad feeling and this negative tension, and I don't want to repeat it again. I'm sorry for this in this way. You know? And then sometimes just openly talking about it naturally will be able to help to dissolve it. So in this moment of the practice, this is what we do towards Tsongkhapa, and in relation to our own past. Okay? And in a normal relation, this is what we do when we meet, before starting anything new. Is it easy or difficult to do this in daily life? It's difficult. Okay? Yet it's very powerful. And very important. And the one that is also difficult, very briefly now, is the next one. It's even more difficult, which is rejoicing. Rejoicing means we need to celebrate the good things that we have. If we do not celebrate the good things, at some times we forget about them. And yes, I'm sorry for all the mistakes that I did. And at the same time, I'm so happy for the good things that we did together. I'm so happy for what you taught me, for what I received from you. I'm really happy for all the good things that you did, for all the good things that we did together, for all the good things that I did. So there is this part of celebrating the positive things. And if we don't train ourselves to celebrate the good things, in the moment of difficulty, we are not even able to see them anymore. We generalize things from the negative aspect and we don't even see the positive things that are there. So it's really important for us to look together and to celebrate the positive things. And this is what we call rejoicing. I celebrate your virtual, I celebrate your positive things, I celebrate our positive things together, I celebrate my own positive things, and I connect to the positive aspects and I rejoice of them, I feel joy about it. Okay? So in this case, we look to Lama Tsongkhapa and first thing we celebrate Lama Tsongkhapa's life. We said, how wonderful what you did. And we think about Lama Tsongkhapa's life and we feel joy for what Lama Tsongkhapa did in his life. You know? And the verse says, by striving for much learning and understanding in this degenerate age, and by abandoning the 8 worldly dharmas, you made your favorable rebirth meaningful. So basically I'm talking about Lama Tsongkhapa's life. Saying, wow, how incredible life you had. To do this well, we need to have some minimum idea of Lama Tsongkhapa's life story. But we are looking towards Tsongkhapa and we're saying, oh, I rejoice so much. I'm so happy for everything that you did in your own life, you know. So we look towards Tsongkhapa, we are happy for what Tsongkhapa did, for his qualities, for his holy actions. Then we look towards our own self, we rejoice of our own actions, we rejoice of that of others, beings around us, of other Buddhas, of other common ordinary beings such as us. And when we apply this to a normal relation, it means I look to you and I say, oh, I'm so happy for this, this, and that. I recognize the positive things that you have and the positive things that you have done. Second, I recognize the positive things that we have together. And then I recognize my own positive things in this relation. And we rejoice about them. We celebrate them. Maybe to celebrate it is an easier way to understand rejoicing. Okay? And that's very powerful, very, very powerful. And yet, strange enough, it's almost more difficult than admitting openly the mistakes. There is somehow in our mind sometimes a little sort of resistance to celebrate the positive things, to rejoice about the positive things. And one thing is not taking away the other, you know. It's not because I celebrate about the positive aspects that I will not see the negative aspects in a relationship, for example. But it's important to celebrate the positive, to openly admit our part of mistakes, and to wish not to repeat them again. These two things go together, okay? Now, very, very quickly, the other 3 goes very fast, because we're not putting emphasis into it. It's another 3 things that we need to do, which is, what do I expect from this relationship? How long do I want to go on with you? And what's the meaning of this relationship? Is it a goal in itself, or is it a tool for something else? Okay, so when we say requesting to turn the Dharma wheel, we say, Lama Tsongkhapa, you are here. After all of this, what do I expect from you? I have invited you in my house. I have praised you. I have made offerings. I openly admitted my mistakes. I rejoice about everything. Now, what do I want from you, great Tsongkhapa? What do I want from you? Please turn the Dharma wheel. Please guide me with Dharma. That's what I want from the Guru. If I go to my dentist First thing, I greet the dentist. I respect you for having all this knowledge and being able to take care of my teeth. Second, I make a small gift to my dentist. I bring him something to manifest my own respect and gratitude. Third, I said, I'm sorry, I didn't brush my teeth really correctly. You know? Please help me not to continue to do it again. And then we say, oh, thank you for taking so good care of my teeth. You know, all the times that I was able, when I had carie here and there, and that was all of that. I rejoice about the positive things. And now what do I want from you? Oh, I have some pain here. Please help me with this. Oh, please show me how to take better care of my teeth. Oh, please be there for me, you know, to take care of my teeth. And then the next point comes, for how long do I want you? As long as I have teeth in my mouth, I need you. And even afterwards, I still need you, you know? So, this is, I don't know if it's clear, this, because when we are in front of the dentist, what do we expect from the dentist? A relationship to take care of our teeth, right? We are in front of the Guru, what we expect from Guru Buddha? To guide us on the path to enlightenment. So what do we expect from Tsongkhapa? Please bless me, but please give me the Dharma. Please show me the path to enlightenment. Please guide me with the Dharma. Please be with me, showing me and helping me to act in a correct way with my body, with my speech, with my mind, at every moment of my life. Please turn the wheel of Dharma. And it's important that when we have any relation with someone else, what do I expect from you? Every relation is based on giving and taking, and of exchanging. So what do we expect from you? Okay? And the next step is, for how long do we want to go on with this relation? You know? And here is request to remain until the end of samsara. What do I expect from Guru Tsongkhapa? Show me the path of enlightenment. For how long do I need it? Until I have gone out of samsara, until I have reached Buddhahood myself. So I request, for how long do I expect it? Okay? And this is like, if you try to apply this to other relations, it's a very powerful tool also. And then comes the last but not least, which normally we make it a little bit fast, but it's actually very important, which is called dedication, which is, okay, here you came, Guru Buddha Tsongkhapa, I'm so grateful that you came here. I make praises to you. I make prostrations and praises. I make offerings. I openly admit my mistakes. I rejoice about the positive things. I request you to give me the Dharma. I request you to be always with me. But why do I do all of that? What's the purpose of this relation that we have here? Is because I want to help others to get out of suffering in this case. So the dedication means we connect to the original motivation once again. It's like, you know, we have a friendship with someone. What do we dedicate this friendship for? You know, we have an intimate relation with someone like husband or wife or whatever. What do we dedicate it for? It's a goal in itself, or it's a means for something else? And this is very important, actually. Not so easy, huh? But it makes a complete big difference when we are able to see the relation with the other not as a goal by itself, but as a means for something bigger. Oh, I want to help to be a positive interdependence in the world that I am. And by exchanging what we exchange together, I'm able to develop my qualities, and I'm able to give something better to others. I'm able to do something good. Oh, I want to help this family, or I want to do something good for the environment, or whatever. To what do I dedicate this relation that I have? So the relation with my Guru, what do I dedicate it for? The relation with Guru Tsongkhapa, what do I dedicate for? Why am I doing this? By Whatever virtue I have accumulated by this practice, may it benefit the teachings and all beings. May it benefit the Dharma to be continuously alive and all sentient beings to get out of suffering. Especially may the essence of the teachings of Venerable Sumatikirti Tsongkhapa be illuminated forever. Continue always to shine and help everyone. So basically, this is what we dedicate it for. Okay? So, with this we conclude the 7 limbs. And this is like something that Buddha made very clear we need to repeat every day. In every relationship that we have. No? So, because it is so important, it was transformed into a sort of ceremony. Into a sort of, how do you say? Something that you repeat, no? Like, not only a routine, but
Ritual.
ritual. It was made into a ritual. Why it was made into a ritual? Because it's so important and we cannot forget it. But the problem is that at one point the ritual becomes only ritual and we disconnect from its actual meaning. So the point is that whenever we go to meet our guru, whenever we go when we meet a friend, whenever we are with our parents or with someone, in our relationships, what are the 7 things that we need to do to keep this relationship healthy? Praise, make offerings, gifts, openly admit our mistakes, rejoice, celebrate the positive things, make clear what do we expect from this relationship, how long do we want to go along, and why are we doing all of this? Okay? So think about going home and looking to your husband or wife or friend or children or, you know, anyone, and going through these 7 processes. It's not so easy. Even the first one is already difficult sometimes, you know. Try to verbalize some praise to the other. Come on. Shouldn't be that difficult. And by this you can see how it's an antidote for pride. Huh? Because it's so difficult sometimes to look at the other one and say, you have this quality, you have that quality, and so on and so on. And just one thing is that if I praise one quality of yours, this doesn't mean that I am not saying that you have not have some attitudes that were harmful to me and difficult and so on. I'm talking about one thing doesn't take away the other. So this 7 points again. First, I praise you, which means I greet you, I cultivate the respect, the love, the connection. Second, I manifest materially, I make you a gift to manifest my gratitude, my love, my connection. Third, I openly admit my own mistakes, because before pointing the fingers towards others, I need first of all to make myself clean from my own tensions that I created in the past. Fourth, I celebrate the positive things of you, of and of us together. Fifth, I make clear what I expect from you, which I need to make clear to myself most of all. Sixth, for how long do I want to go in this way with you? 7, what do I dedicate it for? Why am I doing this? What do I do? Where do I direct what we are doing together? Okay. And then in these 7 limbs, we will find it everywhere, in the Guru Puja, in the preliminary practices, in all the sadhanas. It's something that is always there. So please try to make it sure not to allow it just to be a sort of ritual, but bring it to life. Okay? And we train it with Guru Tsongkhapa. So we go through these 7 processes, which makes us to have this more clear connection with Tsongkhapa. And then, with this, then we will go after to the next part, which is requesting the blessings, and then meditating on the gradual path to enlightenment, which is the foundation of all good qualities. Okay, so we will stop here now for lunch. Okay, And then afterwards, I don't know, what is the time that we're having program? 3:30, 3:30? 3 o'clock? Okay, so we have time for lunch, and then after that some little rest, and we come back again, then we will continue. Okay? Jetsu lame kutse rapten chin namkra chinle chokchur gepa dang losan tempe dreme sasungi rowe minsel taktu ne gyurchi kewa kuntu yanda lama dang dalme cheki pela long chuchin sada lamge yante rapsone dorje change kopa nyur tobsho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shin nitsen taktu delek pe koncho sumge chinge lo koncho sumge nojo so koncho sumge trashi shu. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the paths of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. Mogen die wegen onze zegeningen schenken. Mogen zij ons helpen alle realisaties te verwerven en ons af te zegen te voeden met variërende tekens van voorspoed. Abendung, Nacht des Mittags, mögen die drei Reden uns segnen werden. Mögen sie uns alle Glück zu erlangen und unser Lebensweg mit vertiefen Segensreichen springen. Om Tambalame Sangaram Boche, Yabalame Tamjaram Boche, Rambalame Gendaram Boche, Kyame Kujo Sumla Chababu, Lojo Sambo Pagyo Peshe Patoche Tempe Pegyo Jolo Zambe Zebrache, Panden Lame Shela Chapa Oma Ahu, Oma Ahu, Oma Ahu. Eet smakelijk? Dan is het